Welcome. My name is Herschel Daniels, and I am chairman of Friends of the African Union and Friends of the African Union Chamber of Commerce. This broadcast is being brought to you as the day in Cincinnati that we celebrate the All-Star Games, but it's also the day that we were at the Third International Conference on Financing for Development, which was held in which is being held in Addis Ababa. Now I'm going to be okay talking to a variety of people, okay, online and offline. I'm going to be talking on the phone as well. Okay, you can email me at FAUchairman at gmail.com. Okay, all right, and you can telephone me at 513-858-5275. I'm broadcasting today from the Cincinnati Public Library, and we are inviting all of you to come on down. If you're in Cincinnati, let's have a discussion about how we can change Cincinnati now. Not real soon now, but now. Anyway, till we get around to that, a couple of house cleaning things. One of the things that we're using as our pillars of development is My Brother's Keeper. That's the task force that the President of the United States put together. And that task force, we took that challenge up earlier this year. We created the framework for My Brother's Keeper of Greater Cincinnati. We are inviting the mayors of Cincinnati to play their role, and to Greater Cincinnati. Now, the president had a one-year progress report to the president on February 27th, and I'll read it to you. 1 year ago, you launched My Brother's Keeper, Mr. President, to address the persistent opportunity gaps and to tear down barriers that too often prevent boys and young men of color and other young people from realizing their potential. The presidential memorandum you signed on February 27, 2014, established the My Brother's Keeper task force to work on these issues and directed that it submit a status report within 1 year. This is the report. Here's the report. Okay. At the launch of My Brother's Keeper, you issued a powerful call to action for government, business, nonprofits, local education agencies, and individuals. Individual, plus I'm the chairman of Friends of the African Union. Friends of the African Union is an organization that was created after I was called by Ambassador Ali in December 2011, the 16th. And she called it, okay, I don't know the reason that she called it, but she called me. I used to serve with the Honorable David Morrow. He was the senior honorary consul for the Republic of Guinea to the United States. So we represented an African nation to the United States. We, as American veterans, didn't represent the United States to Africa. We represented Africa to the United States. And anyway, I've been out of the business since 95. And 2011, she called, got my number. Dr. Horn placed the call. I came. Okay, I brought a couple of Dinko with me, and you're supposed to know everything you're going to hear today. You're supposed to know. You're supposed to know that you're a member of the 6th region of Africa, if you are American of African heritage, or if you are a French of African heritage, or if you live anywhere outside the continent. Even if you are tribal and living outside the continent, then in July 16th, 2012, Africa created the 6th region for you. Now, they did that out of the meeting in South Africa on May 25th, 2012 in South Africa. They passed it, and it was confirmed by the leadership of Africa, who meets every 2 times a year. Okay, that's the assembly of the leaders. Okay, this year it's headed by President Mugabe. At that time, you should know all this. You should know that we're in the decade of the African diaspora at the United Nations. You should know that there was a statue unveiled for those of us of the African diaspora. You should know all this, but you may not know it. If you don't know it, well, we're the people to help tell you that. And more importantly, now we're not a social ideological organization. We're about economic development that begets social enlightenment. We're the people who believe that if you've got a couple $1,000 in your pocket, okay, that you look at life a lot different than if you're hustling for the first dollar. Okay, so that's us. That's Friends of the African Union. You can go online and you can type in Friends of the African Union. You'll get all kinds of sites. But our main site is going to be up later today. Okay, it's fauchamber.net. And what we are is not only a NGO, but we are also a Chamber of Commerce. And as a Chamber of Commerce, I'm the committee chair here in Cincinnati, which is our demonstration site where we come out of, for My Brother's Keeper, which is what this introduction was about. Okay, the whole purpose of this section right now is to talk about My Brother's Keeper, because if you don't feel that you're My Brother's Keeper, then you know this isn't the section of the talk for you. If you don't care about your brother, then you will not care. Okay, so I'm on this Google Hangout. People are trying to find me, and I guess they will. All right, but you know what you got to understand is that My Brother's Keeper is important because our nation will be the most successful when all its young people are successful. Okay, there's evidence indicating that when many of our boys and young men of color and other young people grow up in poverty, that means all young people in the United States are in poverty. All right, they drop out of school, they have trouble finding meaningful work, or get involved in the criminal justice system, and we lose the contribution of their talents and abilities in our communities in the larger economy. Hence why, you know, corporations, the big corporations, they want to import cheaper workers using H-1B visas, saying that there's not enough of us here who have science, technology, engineering, and math. Well, I'm an African Scientific Institute fellow. Go look it up. Okay, it's about 800 of us. All right, about 3/4 of us are Americans in the organization now. If you're a hard science person, go there, look at it. There's a form. Tell Lee, fill it out. And if you got a hard science degree, engineering, math, any hard science, social science does not count, then come join us, because that's what we're about. But with My Brother Keeper Task Force, it laid out a comprehensive, forward-looking recommendations to help ensure that no young person is left behind, and that all have the tools to achieve. The strategies focus on addressing the barriers to the path into middle class. Well, there's still a middle class, okay, and social mobility more broadly. Okay, they include an emphasis on implementing policies to address disparities, developing strong communities that commit to nurturing and mentoring our youth, and encouraging unique public-private collaborations. Now, about that public-private collaborations, okay, we're the NGO, okay, that's a non-governmental organization, nonprofit, and if you want to donate some money, hey, we're up for that, we're with you, okay, but we're also a Chamber of Commerce, okay. So we're that sector of that's the nonprofit. Then we're partnering with government. Okay, we were already doing this before My Brother's Keeper came. We're just doing it now with the presidential task force that stands behind it. So that's Ohio law. Okay, in Ohio law, it was passed in July 2010. That allows the creation of public-private partnerships, or P3s, that under Ohio Department of Transportation Special Projects Division then can access the Ohio Infrastructure Bank, which then can access the Governing committee that's over the funds. The state of Ohio has over $132 billion in its pension fund. We think that should be invested in Ohio, not in the New York stock market. But, you know, that's just us. What we are doing in these public-private collaborations then works for this My Brother's Keeper, because when this was released February 27, 2015, it said about this public-private collaborations, a wide variety of businesses, foundations, and nonprofits have committed hundreds of millions of dollars and in-kind resources to advance the vision and objectives of My Brother's Keeper. More than 60 superintendents of the largest urban school districts have pledged to develop aligned strategies. Ours hasn't. And nearly 200 mayors, ours hasn't. County executives, we're going to ask them. And tribal leaders. We're the organization that apologized last July 19th to the Congress of Black Native Americans that we were so good at warriors, okay, that after the Second American Civil War, 150 years ago, over 200,000 of us were experienced warriors. And we a lot of us stayed in the Army and became the 10th and 11th Cavalry. And we were good. We were good warriors, okay? And we helped in their genocide. I apologize. Sorry about that, okay? Now in the 21st century, as an indigenous people, can we go forward under United Nations and under American law as a joint venture, because we're the sixth region of the African Union. So anyway, I'll get into that. And tribal leaders have accepted your challenge to develop locally driven, comprehensive cradle to college to career strategies aimed at improving life outcomes. As we have traveled the country, we've heard from countless young people excited about My Brother's Keeper and what it will mean to them. They have told us that they feel hopeful, that they are enthusiastic about having forums and venues to be heard in, and that they are embracing authentic roles and helping to shape their futures. A 16-year-old member of the Boston Mayor Walsh's My Brother's Keeper task force summed it up this way. Ask yourselves, what will you do to keep the promise? Not only to me, but to all of us. Because we matter, I ask you to join me in proving it. Mr. President, through My Brother's Keeper, your call to action has catalyzed a level of commitment that is creating optimism and opportunity. We continue to work toward building avenues for transformative impact in individual lives and entire communities. So says Arne Duncan, the United States Secretary of Education, and Broderick Johnson, the Assistant to the President, Cabinet Secretary, and Chair of My Brother's Keeper Task Force. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling on my local leadership in Cincinnati, who are mayors, who are county executives, who are these school superintendents, to come together. So let us set a comprehensive solution and keep My Brother's Keeper, keep that promise, make this the city that promises to make that change and that intervenes not only in the case of criminal activity, but intervenes in the case of economic opportunity. That's how we approach the change, economic opportunity that begets social enlightenment. So join us in developing My Brother's Keeper of Greater Cincinnati as a model that will include all facets of the community. Looking forward to working with you. I think we have some people who have been trying. I have a hangout going on right now. And some people are trying to start one and get one in there. Okay. And so they need to check my homepage. It sounds like the All-Star game is getting ready to bang up, okay, and get underway. All right. All right, so I'm going to keep this running, okay? And what's your Gmail? And I will invite you. Now, you know, what we're doing is using the technology today. I'm going to run it for a long time. This is going to be on the record, okay? And we'll get back to My Brother's Keeper, where we're going to make that difference, okay? Now, the difference we made, okay, for this is, here we go, invite people. Gmail, so I can send you a, okay, there we go. All right, here we go. First customer of the day. All right. All right. What we're doing in My Brother's Keeper in Cincinnati is going to be the headquarters for what we are doing for the sustainability. Okay. And what we're doing for sustainability development goals is part of what we're doing for the Universal Periodic Review. So there's a lot to cover, okay? A lot of work that we've got to do. Short amount of time to do it, and the reason it's a short amount of time to do it is we're going to have it all done by October 1st. We're going to come together as one nation, okay? And that one nation, I started it as part of One Nation in 2010, okay? And just so you know, okay, that's what we're looking at right there. All right. Looks like we have some people join us. All right. Tim?
I can hear you.
All right. Hold on a second. My fault. All right. Now I can hear you. Can you hear me, brother? I'm seeming to speak here. Okay. I've got green dots going live. Okay. Okay. And I'm not hearing you. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go on. And so, and Tim, you can call me if you can hear me. Call me because I'm not hearing you. Okay. So one of the things I said on this is that this is a briefing on. Okay, looks like you're in transit. Okay, well, I'm waiting for people to come in. I just called you on Hangout. Can you hear my, can you hear me? I hear you now. Can you hear me? All right, Tim, I'm hearing you. All right. Well, technology is a wonderful thing, okay? And sometime in the future, we'll get it all right on the first try, maybe even the second try. Okay. All right. Can you hear me, Tim? Uh-huh. Well, where's all these people calling me on? All right. On Hangout.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Ah, I can hear you
Okay.
now.
Okay, you know what? I had sent you a message and that one was still open.
Are you able
So it wasn't
to hear?
until I closed it.
Okay, yeah, I can
Are
see.
you able to hear,
I see both of you.
Daniel?
All right, somebody's Tim, you're bouncing.
You see
All right.
both of us?
All right. So, all right, Tim. Okay, you're bouncing, and we'll go ahead and put it on mute. We're going to talk about our FAU women here.
Okay.
How's that, sister? Okay. All right. So, Tim, just for the Million family, Tim is
Hello?
handling. Yeah,
I
Tim.
can hear you, thank
You see us?
Tim, Tim, can you hear me? Could you go on mute for a second? And you can pull the rest of your people in. Okay, but your signal is bouncing. Okay. All right. So here's where we are. Okay. Wait a minute, just a second. Let me.
Okay.
Get. All right. And yes. Okay. You'll have to excuse me that I am dealing with the first time on a, not the first time on a Hangout, but for just getting it technology done. Okay. All right. So I'm sure you got a lot of questions.
I do.
So let's get started. I assume you accept the appointment for
Yes.
being the head of FAU Women.
Yes. Even though I don't fully know what that entails, I just
But you've accepted. Okay.
yeah. I
All
have
right.
clue.
So you're representing probably a little bit over 150 million African women.
Yeah, that's pretty
All right.
deep.
Yeah. Well, we've got the humanity to say that Friends of the African Union is birthing the Commonwealth of the African Diaspora on announcing publicly that on August 6th. Basically, what we're saying is Friends of the African Union is an organization that represents the diaspora. That's what I brought it together to do. See, everybody should know what you know. Okay, they should know about the Fayanka. They should know about, okay, that the African Union in July 16th, 2012 created the 6th region. They should know everything that Wesley and the Congress of African People and his people know.
Okay.
Well, they don't. Hold on a second. This is His Majesty. Hold on. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am. Okay. We have. I was going to, like I said, do that at 4 o'clock, and then everybody's expecting the call at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 3 o'clock California time. That makes the formal announcement. But we'll start that at 4. Yes, sir, and I'll text you that number. Yes, sir. All right. So yes, sir. Yeah, well, you want me to, I'll call you, okay, and hook you into the conference line, and then from the conference line, you can then be online and people can hear you, okay, and then at that time, if you wish. Or you can just listen in. And yes, sir. Yes, I will, if you will. I appreciate it. And then I'll see you at 4 o'clock, sir. Just so you know, this is King Du Bois on the line, so that's why you hear me saying a lot of yes sirs and etc. He's going to come on the line later today.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So if you'll just give me another minute here.
All right, that's fine.
Yes, sir. Okay. And one of the things that the king is talking about is that in terms of the NAACP, which his forefather helped create. Okay, and you know, so that's what he's talking about. And as we announced the formation of the Commonwealth out of FAU, while this conference is going on in Addis Ababa, that our senior Queen Mother, Dr. Dolores Blakely, is representing us as a voting delegate, okay, at that conference. All right. And yes. Yep. So this is the ancestral roots.
Hello?
Yes. Tim, I hear you. Okay. All right. So, oh, you came in on another line. Okay. All right. So King Du Bois is on the line, and he's giving me orders relative to the launch of the Commonwealth and how he wants the Commonwealth to be announced later today. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. And so you'll have to forgive me for giving me 5 minutes, but it's one of the things one of the things as an African that we do is we give priority to our elders, but and more importantly, that when we have royalty, okay, that we give a hierarchical order, which is in terms of the Queen Mother of the Ashanti Kingdom chooses the king, and then the king, okay, governs with the Queen Mother sort of acting as an audit. What we get to do is we get to birth all this infrastructure ourselves, okay, from our perspective, okay, and so that's what Yes, sir. I wrote it all down. Okay. All right. In terms of the Commonwealth and its leadership as a descendant leadership of W.E. Du Bois, who created, okay, within the NAACP a basis. So he brought the Niagara movement into the foundation. Yes, sir. All right. So, sir, we've got people online right now that I need to talk to, and before 4 o'clock, and set that up. Okay. And if what time do you go into your meeting? All right. All right. Let me get back to you at 2:30, sir. Yeah, let me get back to you at 2:30, and that we will game plan that out. Okay, and so let me talk to the people who are online with us right now, and then I'll get back to you at 2:30. Yes, sir. All right. I understand. We will do that. All right. All right. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. All right. So I'm sorry about that, but if he calls, I will interrupt my conversations. Okay. All right. All right. So here we are. Okay. We have California. We have Tim online, and we have the FAU women. You've accepted the appointment. Then I sandbagged you and said, "Oh, you're representing 150 plus million women." Okay. And so, but you understand when they created the Fiancan tribe, they didn't understand what they really were creating.
Yeah.
All right, because they said that that's the tribe for
hear me?
all of us in the diaspora.
You can hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you, Tim. Tim?
He put himself on
Tim?
mute. He put himself on mute.
Okay.
He's driving.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So.
Miss Olivia.
All right, Miss Olivia.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great.
All right. So let me go on with this briefing about the women, which right now it was temporarily assumed by our chief executive officer. She up to now has been our highest ranking royalty within the FAU. She is a Igbo princess from Nigeria, but with your assumption, she can go back to what we are doing in our plans to later next week to be meeting with the president of Nigeria. We have that invitation, and I'll give you more information on it. Okay. The short of it is that we're doing 4 major things. Internationally right now, FAU is representing, okay, the African people in America in Addis Ababa at the 3rd round of financing for Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. Because the king had not until today given his blessing to issue this under his name. Now, his name is, okay, Joseph Du Bois, that WB, okay, the man buried in Ghana. Okay, so he was crowned by the Ashanti king in ceremony, and then in 2003 they had a big ceremony here in America with over 10,000 people coming. Okay, and apparently nobody knows this. Okay, but he was the first American who was crowned not only by the Ashanti king and accepted as a peer, the first one in America, but then he was by 16 paramount chiefs in Liberia. Then, in his earlier life, you know, when he was with Ben Joseph, okay, he was by Haile Selassie given part of royal recognition and land by the emperor. Bless his name. Well, this man who has for over a quarter century pursued economic development, when we met, it was 1 + 1 = 3. Okay, so we met in New York some less than 10 days ago, and he confirmed what we've been working on to create a commonwealth of the African diaspora. So that's point number 2. Now remember, I said we didn't have permission to speak for anybody else except for those of us officially in America, because both Queen Mother, Dr. Blakely, and myself, our respective organizations, were called to the table October 8th through the 10th, 2013, by the African Union itself. We didn't call ourselves, they called us. And they called us about their 50-year plan. Now, we joined over 100 other groups that were called by them. It just so happens we were among the 2 largest delegations. And the key point is that she's been pursuing her legacy out of Queen Mother Moore at the United Nations, but she's been an Ashanti Queen Mother by the Queen Mother of the Ashanti Kingdom for 20 years. Hear me clearly. Okay. She is the senior Queen Mother of the Ashanti Kingdom in the United States. I don't say so. The Ghanaian government in the UN Women, you know, the celebration on March 8th this year. Yeah. So they sent a delegation here. All right. And in that delegation from the government, in that celebration on March 8th of International Women's Day in New York, 20 years after the meeting in Beijing, where Queen Mother was, she was in that 20 years ago as a Ashanti Queen Mother. And she was installed as such and brought in and sent from the king to his mother 20 years ago. Well, this delegation came in and they got a whole bunch of, because, you know, remember, this is Ghana. This is where Du Bois helped write the Constitution, and where the tribal government is part of government. Well, she will sit here at part of the delegation, this Queen Mother, who happens to be the chief of staff to His Majesty the Ashanti King's Queen Mother, okay? And she reconfirmed in front of not only our people at FAU, but in front of the whole United Nations, that our Queen Mother is the senior Ashanti Queen Mother in the United States. She's an American.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Just like he's an American. But they recognize his and hers Ashanti royalty. They have agreed to take up the Fionkan cause. All right. So the Fionkan cause is the cause to where African tribes, and I'm going to let you tell the people about what Fionka, how it came about, what it is, and where it stands.
Okay. I need to do some updating for the last couple of weeks. But my understanding, it's not very in depth, but I did have experience with for 2 years, from 2011 to 2010. My understanding is that it was started up from a delegation coming to Detroit. They met with chiefs and people met there, and then they wound up allocating. Initially, they had allocated like 30,000. Are you guys hearing that feedback that I'm getting?
Yeah, I'm muted. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay. Initially, there was 30,000 acres that was allocated for Africans of the diaspora, anyone that was displaced by the Atlantic slave raids. Then they wound up giving, I think, around 486 acres of land. It just so happened that at the same time, the president of Ghana was, many of you may have heard, there was something about creating dual citizenship for African Americans and for Africans in the diaspora. When I was there, I found in the archives that the president at that time, I think it was Clinton, wrote a letter to the president there of Ghana stating that he didn't want African Americans to repatriate because it would devastate the economy here in the United States. And I'm just adding that because I think that's kind of important. So there was a brother, Akpan, who self-appointed himself as the chief of We of the Diaspora and set about creating a structure for how the land was going to be designated to different people, or how people would purchase land and what the cost would be and this kind of thing. And in the end, when I was there in 2011, we found documents that showed that more than 100 people had actually paid this man money. He died in 2008. I was there first in 2007. He died in 2008. His wife, he left a wife and a son there, and he left I think he had a second wife in, from Benin. Yeah, from Benin. Or Togo or Benin. So he left the wives and the son, and there was a lot of controversy around people's land, around people's money, around this man being the chief, to the point that the leaders there request that they have the stool and skin returned, which had been set aside for the Africans of the diaspora. So the Akpans refused to return the stool and skin. They had only, let me just make a point that there on the land that was given, it was actually given for around 486 acres. On that land, a part of the agreement was that they would build hospitals, clinics, schools, you know, things that would be complementary, definitely for us that are repatriating, but for the people that are there, that are all around the area. That would be, you know, a joint benefit for all of us. But to this day, there has been no clinics, no schools, nothing of that sort built. The only thing that was really built was a palace for this self-appointed king and his family. And people a few of them have their homes up there. And then there are a few other people, maybe about 8 other people that were there, African Americans. But basically nothing was held to the promise that was a part of their agreement. I went and got the documents and looked over all of the initial documents that was set in place and the initial agreement that was made, and nothing was followed through on there. So while we were there, the chiefs were requesting their stool and skin back and actually took them to court. Things happened where I think they wound up again taking people to court there. The Akpans refused to allow Ghanaians on the land. It was a mess, and to put it short. However, some people did come. There's a woman, Brenda Mohammed or Ayana Shabazz, who built her own house built a home for her son, and then a place for her daughter, and for another friend that's relocating, repatriating as well. And they went on to open first they opened a pub where people could come and have beer and watch the games, and they did a internet cafe. And their internet cafe, they brought youth from the various schools around there to come and learn things on the internet. And then they wound up closing that and opening a chop bar, a restaurant down near the water. The Akpans came with papers. It's online. I saw a video. They came with papers and served them, saying they had plans for that land. Now, they've been there more than 20 years, and they haven't done anything, and they came and tried to prevent these people who have been doing something progressive from utilizing the land. I don't think that went through. I think they spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of money in and out of court trying to deal with the Akpans. So the last thing that's happened major was that the wife of Akpan and her sister were found missing. First they were missing, and then they were found dead. So they've been murdered. And I don't really know exactly what the status is right now, but Ayana and her son and another brother who's there, who's a surgeon assistant, and a young Ghanaian brother were all picked up, incarcerated. The young Ghanaian brother confessed, said there was no one that participated with him, and later he's confessed to doing other murders as well. And finally, after paying fees, not a lot, I think about $2,000 apiece, Miss Mohammed and her son and the other brother were all released. So right now, I'm not sure exactly what the status is, like what's happening and what they're going to do. But I can tell you that at the same time, Europeans are building up there. They have, the last time I was there, I saw, I don't know, maybe 100 solar panels being put up there. I heard they were getting ready to put up some kind of a gated community. They've bought up most of the land around the lake there. The area is beautiful, extremely beautiful. But I also know that there's lots of land in Ghana and other places in Africa that people are willing and ready to share with us. Any questions?
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So, with that being said, a little bit more. I'm a Ghanaian corporation. Okay. I'm in the partnership. By day, we're an engineering firm. And so my engineering firm is a partnership called Ghana Ventures. We're a legal Ghanaian venture. We build things. And so there is, as you know, on the coastal land, now the big thing in Ghana is the development of the resources that they've discovered offshore. And there's about 7,000 acres that's on a unusable cliff on the coast that we think that out of Tima that we can build on. Okay, we will pursue the original grant and the original, and we're going to be doing it a little bit different because we're going to be doing it with an Ashanti king. All right.
Well,
and so already recognized.
I think that the people have tolerated the nonsense that was happening for years, and I think one of the reasons that it was tolerated is because Africans on the continent really seek to build relationships with us, and from my little experience, many of them are waiting for us to arrive to do business with them, to work with them, and build. So, as a matter of fact, I'm sure they're still ready to.
All right, let me say, when I lived in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm an oceanographic tech, among other things. So the first part of my life, I was in the military. I volunteered for the military, and then I got to meet, but I had already been overseas 3 years before that. The second part of my life, I'm an oceanographic tech, and I was living in Egypt and Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, as a military guy, I was stationed out of Spain and and I did a lot of North African travel. Right now, and not having been on her, okay, for nearly now 2 decades, back when we were the senior honorary consul for the Republic of Guinea under the Honorable David Morrow. So when I was involved heavy was based on us being the diplomats for Guinea in America as the senior honorary consul. So we were Americans who represented an African nation in the United States. So I didn't come out, even though I'm a Garveyite and 45 years as a Garveyite, I did not come out of Garveyism to do this. I did not work with David as a Garveyite. Rather, I worked with David, Mr. David Morrow, who was the honorary consul. I worked at it from the perspective that Du Bois and other leaders, Delaney and others, and the wish, okay, that Africa unite. And I worked with the authority of the Treaty of Berlin of 1885, which created what we call Africa right now. Okay, so in Berlin, over a 2-year period from 1884 to 1885, the conquerors of the African continent, remember it took nearly 400 years to conquer, okay, all right, from 1492 to 1885. And they didn't conquer the interior, but they conquered the coastal plains, all except for Ethiopia, which had a standing army that was trained by the Romanovs and Franz Joseph of Austria-Hungary, and was every bit as good as the European armies, hence why they were the only African nation at that conference. That treaty gives us as Americans and those of Europe who are African heritage, like us, unique status in international law, because within that context, what we did, which I can't explain why nobody else has done it. Again, I was not involved in the ideological battle. Okay, rather I was involved in governance, and when everybody is African, it is on the ground. Now, I'm not saying that the colonial powers still don't have the influence that they do, because I've already battled that, already been in that fight. But I know this, that when everybody's African, then 50 years ago, okay, now over 52 years ago, we created an organization of African Unity. There was a great battle, whether we go to a United States of Africa or we go to what we ended up with, the Organization of African Unity. And then in 2000, the mission of that organization was completed in terms of the overt colonial control of most of Africa, and they transitioned into the AU. Now, I was part of that old crew. I was part of that crew that back in '95, when I last was a diplomat for Africa, was pushing for where we are now, where Africa, through the African Union, has created the 6th region. In that 6th region is 300 million people who don't live on the continent. 1.1 billion people live on the continent, and 300 million who are of African heritage or Africans. Of that 300 million, 30 million plus are African tribal from the continent but don't live in Africa right now. The other 270 million great majority of us here in the Americas, over 200 million of us, have an African heritage. But like me, I come from 1948 when a Nubian woman was taken by a Frenchman on my father's side. So that we have that unique combination that in 2012, Africa as a body gave us mission orders to do X, Y, Z as Africans in the 6 regions. We took that up when nobody else was taking it up like that. That's what FAU took up and said that we would organize, and in 2013, African Union called us about their 50-year plan, and when we went and we said, well, yeah, that's good. We've got a $1.25 trillion plan for America. You know, the African Americans who earned $1 trillion last year. Yeah, we got a plan for us, and that deals with you in international trade and the services that we will help you do the mining. We've got a whole intelligentsia and professional skill set that you don't have. And we're ready to increase our business because our businesses only do $120 billion a year, and only half of that money comes from us, $60 billion. The other half comes from government sales and other corporate sales. They bought that because we're also a chamber of commerce. We seconded when we went to that meeting on October 8th through the 10th at the African Union headquarters to the United Nations. Because remember, the African Union is a diplomatic governmental representative of the 54 nations of the African continent. And when we went there, there was only 2 people who had big plans. Okay, and there was a lot of ideological talk about reparations. There was a lot of ideological talk about, well, we want to go home. But Queen Mother Dr. Blakely asked for $3 trillion in reparations from the United Nations and brought that to the table in that meeting. And I have been negotiating with President President Obama, okay, about the 1.25 trillion, 300 billion in infrastructure, 250 billion for our businesses, and 700 billion for housing and investment in 7 million households for Americans who were damaged back to Katrina and as far up as Sandy. The SBA, the MBDA, they froze on me, and you know, we were at that point. Well, in 2014, after this meeting, the MBDA directorate has been replaced. And in case you don't know, the Minority Business Development Agency is the only agency in the U.S. federal government whose sole purpose is to advance minority American businesses. Unlike the SBA, who is open to all Americans, the Minority Business Development Agency is only open to minorities as defined by the SBA. So those administrations as of July 2014 have been changed. I met with the new SBA director, and she, like a woman like the previous, but unlike the previous director, we think she's somebody who we can work with. So when we set the stage for 2015, it was actually set, the stage has been set from 2011, December 16th, through today. And what stage, remember I said 4 things. First we had FAU, so that's all what you hear me talk about, FAU. And we didn't push it because we were quiet in the background of getting this done. You may see us all over Facebook in that front page, and a lot of people put our name up, but what we were doing was what I was taught to do under David, which was real governance. Then we had Queen Mother, and between us, we pushed into the United Nations deep into the United Nations, because President Obama had accepted the United States' role in the UN when he came in, which was a change from the previous administration. The United nations had created a peer review at a nation state level that came out of Millennium Development Goals, where the nations of the world review each other. They say, what's the best practices for caring for human beings? What do we need to do, and what's the human rights of this? So President Obama has now been through 2 reviews of this, 2011 and 2015. So in 2011, he basically said, look, I'm an American who, when this country was formed, my African heritage would have precluded me from even being a citizen, would have precluded from me being counted as a man, would have precluded me even being considered to vote. Because don't remember, when this country was formed, only white men who own land could vote. You could be a white man, but if you didn't own any land, you couldn't vote. Don't even talk about women being able to vote. That didn't happen till the 20th century. But what he said, here's the 10 points of American problems. Number 1 problem was racism. Okay, racism is the number 1 problem in America. All right, he said it to the world. He didn't just, he wasn't just going, well, I'm going to be quiet about, what America is. Okay, he made it plain to the world. There are 10 problems. He made the State Department say it and said that there's 10 problems. Good to see you, Carlton. Okay, that there are 10 problems in America, starting with racism. Next, criminal justice. He went down the line, environmental and et cetera, 10, and he ended up with international treaties. So that's called the Universal Periodic Review of the United States of America, which was conducted in 2011 and 2015. And the Universal Periodic Review is a unique review. And that review we participated in 2014. We submitted as a United Nations Civil Society Organizational Joint Venture, New Future Foundation, and Friends of the African Union submitted to the United Nations on the 15th of September 2014 a solution to institutionalize federal racism in the United States in the amount of $5 trillion. Now, what was different is that we gave the means for doing that, which is called quantitative easing. Now, you may have heard of quantitative easing as what we used in the bailout of the debacle and Wall Street in 2008. That's where that $900 billion came from. See, that $900 billion came from a fund that the Federal Reserve was authorized to issue. Because remember, the whole system locked up. When the whole system locked up, nobody could get any money. And so to restart it, what they did is they authorized the Federal Reserve to write $15 trillion worth of new dollars. And the way that worked is that the President of the United States tells the Treasury Secretary, hey, get our agents, the Federal Reserve, that private corporation over there, to issue $15 trillion worth of new money. So now they're authorized to issue $15 trillion worth of new money, and they proceed to issue $900 billion of it as the emergency fund. And so when the economy was slowing down, etc., President Obama went back to that fund, and he used that fund to generate, he put, what, $85 billion a month through new money into the economy throughout 2013. $1 trillion. There's been over $1.4 trillion in money that he's pumped into the economy. If you're looking around the American economy wondering why some people are doing well, it's because President Obama put that money in the economy. Now, they're doing well, but the average American isn't, because that money didn't reach them. So we knew about that money. I'm part of the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, and so we know about that money. And so when I know about that money and say it's not reaching the people, how can we make that happen? So we started on that when I came back to this work for Africa. I had already started on it because we were founded as a new civil society organization. And in 2012, we met with the U.S. State Department, who in collaboration with several co-sponsors like DOD, Department of Transportation, Department of Agriculture, the Small Business Administration, the EPA, the Export Trade Administration, on a U.S.-Africa business conference. Last year in 2014 was not the first time that's happened. Since 2000, when we had entered into the African Growth and Opportunity Act, we had been meeting biannually on the U.S.-Africa Business Summit. Well, 2012 was the business summit that planned what happened with the meeting with the president last year. And at that conference, it turned out that we were one of the few African-American firms there, and we were the only one who said, as an organization, Friends of the African Union, that we had 8 spheres of focus. Number 1, human services. Number 2, health services. Then we wanted to erase, and don't talk to me about bridging, we want to erase the digital divide. We've talked about public info and education and social services, housing, small business, as well as being a global change trade partnership. So we let them know that we're organized with an advisory board made up of appointed persons of note, a supervisory board made up of the 5 founding group members. And let me say that Friends of the African Union on MLK Day 2012, when we actually came into being, I come out of Occupy Cincinnati. I come out of the boycott. I come out of a coalition of groups that included ACORN. I come out of a emphasis on how do you change governance by using something that we received 50 years ago in August 6, 1965, the vote. We showed how that can change this country at a national level. We got to get back to stick at a local level. So Friends of the African Union, when I said how it would be organized in 2012, including a management committee made up of strategic partners and supported by organizations like Pathway Ventures, and a board of global change ambassadors, and an assembly which will meet every 2 years to give a report on local coalitions and their activities. Now, at that time, when I founded this, I didn't know about the Congress of African People, which was Wesley, okay, and the group, because they looked at 2011 when the UN was celebrating the year of the African diaspora, and they were like, well, why isn't anybody talking about this? There were people who were designated that were supposed to tell you about this. They didn't. You had to talk to them. Only thing I know is in December 2011, as co-founders of Friends of the African Union, we stood in a meeting in Washington, D.C., called by Her Excellency Ali, who is the ambassador from the African Union to the United States and Mexico, and Dr. David Horn. And based on that, we employed a coalition to create a organization that was launched in January 2012 at MLK. And that in February, we adopted a plan of action. In March of that year, we formed a for-profit FAU Global Solutions. And in April of 2012, we met at the National Community Reinvestment Coalition to start the global banking talks. And in May, we met online as the African Union at the first ever Diasporan Conference held by Africa for us in South Africa. First ever, May 25th, 2012, African Liberation Day. They passed at that conference a memorandum that was sent to the leadership in June. And in June, okay, that leadership contemplated that while the U.S. and Africa met here in Cincinnati. And we were invited to the table. Then in July, the orders were issued by the African Union that they have a sixth region, and they elected a woman to head Africa, by the way. Okay, Dr. Zuma, medical doctor. And in August, okay, we proposed our science, technology, engineering, and math forecast. I'm a African Scientific Institute fellow, and you know, if you have hard science, like you have Bachelor of Nursing or MD or technical or engineering or computer science, check out the African Scientific Institute. If you like what you see, contact me at fauchairman@gmail.com, because I definitely want to get you in. Or you can contact me at engineering-wise at Herschel@Hargrove Engineering, HARGROVE Engineering. But we came together when the orders were issued in July 2012. And one of the first things we did in September was that we proposed a power plant powered by sewage water as a presentation to the African Scientific Institute at a forum sponsored by the Constituency for Africa at Howard University during that year's Congressional Black Caucus. Now, 4 years earlier, we had been at the Congressional Black Caucus as the National Truth and Justice Coalition that was pointing out best practices for the community. Separate and apart. Remember, I didn't get involved back into specific Africa-themed actions until December 2011. So what we have is that we have a history that's a little bit less than 3 years. And where are we now? Well, we are at a conference right now that is deciding on how to finance the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the post-millennium development goals of the world. United Nations, 193 nations. And we are there representing those of us who are on the line in America, who are of African heritage. But we're birthing the creation of the recreation, because they've got the Fionkin stool back at the minister in Ghana, so we can go and we can hit that, okay, in terms of them participating with us, because we're coming to them as a people with a king that they recognize, that the Ashanti king recognizes as a peer, that he installed, and that we're coming back with the senior queen mother that they made 20 years ago. And we're coming back based on the principles and objectives that are stated in the Charter of the Organization of African Unity, the Constitutive Act of the African Union, the Declaration on the Formation of the United States of America, the ideas and laws enacted in the Constitution of the United States of America, except for that 3/5 of a man bit. I'll get to that in a second. And agreements between nations that form the United Nations, including the Atlantic Charter, as well as the treaty establishing the African Economic Communities of Africa, and the agreements agreed upon the creation of UNICEF and the laws of the state of Ohio. Now, when we did that, we said, look, we've got to have some organizational principles. And so we've got 10 of them. And I'm going to read them real quick. We support the African Union, its constitutive act, and the history of its predecessor organization of the Organization of African Unity, number 1. We support recognition of the African diaspora globally and legally by the African Union. 3. We support the UN Declaration on Human Rights and its application to Africans and their condition worldwide. 4. We support the UN Millennium Goals for Africa. and the economic social uplift of Africans on the continent and in the African diaspora, as well work of the African Union in regards to increasing trade between African nations, and will incorporate the work of the International Year for People of African Descent, that's 2011, as it was designated by the UN and the Organization of American States. 5, and that's important, I'll come back to that. 5, we support the strategy and agenda of the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council, ECOSOC, and through Organization of African American Civil Society, we support legacy projects and continuing efforts to strengthen the Global African Diaspora Initiative of the African Union. Remember, we had did this in November 7th, 2012, when she had created the 6th region. 6, we support peace, security, and basic human dignity within Africa and around the globe, with an emphasis on stopping slavery in the African Union and the African diaspora. Let me tell you, brothers and sisters, slavery got a hold of us still, with over 28 million slaves in the world still. I'm in Cincinnati, where we have the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. Well, part of our intentions is to buy that, so that's the headquarters, because our intention is to stop slavery by 2030. I'm sorry, I had to make the comment. Okay, we put that in there specifically because a lot of people think slavery has stopped. It has not. 7, we support the Organization of African and Peoples of African Descent, Self-Interest, and Uplift through a committee structure, and takes responsibility for organizing such in the United States of America. 8, we support the African Growth and Opportunity Act of 2000, and by 2014, the creation of a new plan between the United States of America and the African Union that is supportive of the African diaspora in the USA and would be sustainable not only in Africa, but also in the host countries of the African diaspora. 9, we support political empowerment of Africans as individual citizens and in free associations on cooperation and solidarity in the continent and in the diaspora. Should be the diaspora, but in diaspora. 10, we support the creation of the African American Diaspora Holding Company, an investment trust, who will start with creating a financial solution in response to the damage caused by Hurricane Sandy through the U.S. Federal Reserve and its banks. We adopted these operating principles during 2012 with plans to adopt them in our nonprofit organization in 2013 that is now taking place in 2015 with modifications based on actions of Africa and the United States of America. So with that, I'll stop and take questions, and then I'm going to move on into the issue that was talked about with the Fayonkan tribe, the Commonwealth, and how that relates, and how does FAU relate to any of that. And so, you know, if you're on mute, you can unmute yourselves right now if you have any questions, and if you don't have any questions, then I'll keep going.
Okay.
Right. Go ahead.
That was a lot.
Oh, that's a lot. Now see, the sister received probably over what, 300 pages?
Is all?
All right. Now that's Carlton Brown of the Carlton Brown Foundation. And sister, if you think you've received a lot of pages, he received the unabridged 2,000 pages of original documents. All right, because what we have, okay, is right here. This is the briefing book that's being updated and will be published by the FAU manual and Amazon. But what it is we include the consultation with civil society on Agenda 2063 in October, okay, and in Senegal and in New York, and you know, we've been in the mix, okay. So now it's time to move and expand, and especially for women. This is y'all's time, okay?
Yes,
The African woman who heads the UN Women right now, okay? The African woman who heads the African Union, okay? And with Robert Mugabe as president of the African Union, we met with his ambassador, and let's say that President Mugabe is overseeing the creation. Right now, President Obama is in this negotiation on the Trans-Pacific Partnership covering 800 million people in the world and $28 trillion of the world's $75 trillion worth of governmental income. Well, we're involved. That's nearly 40%, right? Okay, 40, yeah, about 40%. We're involved with Africa, who only earns $2.5 trillion of that world's economy. We, as Americans alone, earn $1 trillion, but our country earns 15 trillion. Now, the rest of the diaspora, they may earn $1 trillion. So, Africa continent, 2.5 trillion. The diaspora, 2 trillion. That's 4.5 trillion. And with the United States, okay, 15 trillion minus our trillion, okay, that means we're talking about $18.5 trillion that we say the Commonwealth, okay, can be represented. That's what we're doing as New Future Foundation at this conference. But what we do as the Commonwealth, we're creating a new alliance with Asia, because we went to we went to Vietnam in 2013. Okay, we met with the man who's in charge of rebuilding the country. Some reason it's taken them quite a long time to do that. Something about a war that, you know, lasted nearly 70 years, sort of destroyed their country. But did you know that in Vietnam there's African Vietnamese? Did you know in Laos, Cambodia, we've explored all that region thousands of years ago. And there's who look like us, not African American Asian, but African Asian. Angkor Wat and others are proof of that and that history. And so we visited, Fred, I can't visit and fly anywhere because I've got 5 heart attacks and 6 stents and yada. Okay. Hold on for a second. I'm going to have to go on mute. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, we're at the same time that we're doing this, we're also administratively getting the house in order, as you may be, and so we did all this infrastructure to come forward to this year. We are at a 50 year in 2013. They put forth a 50-year plan. We put forth a 50-year plan. 2014, we went to the United Nations and answered President Obama, said this is how you do it, that you did it for them. We know that there is over $8 trillion worth of authority left. Here's how we do it. We'll present you with the people to do it. And so we did that this year. We met with the African Union's president's representative, his ambassador, and we partnered up. Okay, we created FAU Zimbabwe, yep. Okay, so my grandson, okay, has decided to join us, and he's going to take some of my Altoids. Okay, immediately, first thing he comes in, okay, I'm going to put my dirty hands in your Altoids. Okay, and you going to just take one for no, you're going to take your dirty hands and you okay, you're okay. Okay, all right. I have to take a break for a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I've got to.
Hello.
It's 2 o'clock.
Hello.
Hello. Greetings.
Greetings.
How are you, brother?
Absolutely excellent. You know, looking forward to a united Africa.
Yeah. Man, it's in the
When-
mix. I love it.
yeah, I do too. I've been
Timothy
working hard at
here?
it. Uh-huh.
I'm asking Timothy and Sister Infinite.
Yes, yes. I agree 1,000,000%.
Oh, where are you? Where are you, brother?
I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio with the chairman.
Oh, you're in Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, I work right along beside him and Mr. Harris and Mr. Hargrove. So yeah, I'm in Cincinnati. I would have been down there with him today, but I'm at home right now. So
Okay.
hmm.
Do you know a sister there named Nzinga?
And Zinga,
Yeah.
yeah, I've heard that name. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, you can contact Miss Shira Kamisi. She is our anthropologist, and they're all connected up there. I used to be the chief administrative assistant up there. So
do you know? I don't know. I just know I met Sister Nzinga when I was in Africa in 89, 92. No, I met her in 92, and then I met her in 2000.
okay, excellent, excellent.
But I lost contact with her. I mean, I met her in 92. I lost contact then. And then when I first got there, like the first or second day I got there in 2000, I ran into her. But then I lost her again.
Okay. Well, I know you can contact Miss Shira Kamisi. She'll be on like Google Plus or
How
Facebook
you
or
say
any
it? Sheba?
Shira,
Shira. How you spell it?
Sherah.
Okay.
Kamisi is Khamasi. I think. Kamisi is the I on the end. Kamisi.
Okay.
Can't miss her. She's on YouTube too. You can go to Honey Shira. Yeah, I've the chairman the chairman gives me so much information I don't ever get tired, I guess.
Mhm.
I do a lot of reading.
Love for humanity.
You want me to do that now?
Yes, yes, do it now. Yeah, Herschel Daniels. Okay. Yeah, hey, Wes. Okay. Wes, they just left. Okay. All right. So I'll put you on hold. I'm on a conference call right now, and I'm going to wrap that up, and we're going to get to you in just a second. Okay. All right. Let's see about putting that on mute. All right. So that's Wes on the line. Okay. The four areas: the Commonwealth, the tribe, Friends of the African Union, and Friends of the African Union Global Solutions. Global Solutions is the for-profit that's going to work with our Chamber of Commerce. So each one of you who have a business plan, hallelujah, okay? Because we're going to use that business plan and demonstrate it here and as ground zero, so that we can then use it in your particular neighborhood. All right, is use My Brother's Keeper to make that happen. And My Brother's Keeper is a program that I was, when you see the beginning of this video, you'll see My Brother's Keeper. Oh, yes, conference line? Okay, yeah. Is Frank Crusoe there? Yeah, okay. All right. I'm going to wrap up a conversation in 2 minutes, and then I'll be right on. All right, so I've got lawyers, okay, on the line, and accountants, okay, that we're doing the background on this. So you can go into Friends of the African Union on Google, and you can bring it here. Come on over, kids. If you know, y'all are sitting over there, okay. We're doing all this for y'all anyway, okay. All right, now come on over, come on around here, come around here. This is Google technology at work. Okay, now see, I'm doing this in the main public library here. Okay, and you see this woman here? Yeah, she teaches class via the internet. She'll teach you dance via the internet. That's what she does right now. So you can be in this room, and this big TV right here, I'm going to hook up, and you can be doing this, and you can bring your friends, and etc. And that's what we do. Okay.
Oh, so is you talking to him?
Yes. Everybody, say hi.
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 Yeah. So, yeah, these are four other people.
How are you all doing? How are you all doing?
Good. Hi.
Yeah.
So this ostensibly is the reason why I'm doing this. This one. This one I can grab and grab by the hair, and he says, "Oh no, don't do that." But he's the fifth grader. His sister just graduated high school. Oh, you're gonna go over there, Mr. Mike, and is in college right now. So if I could say I've done nothing in the past 18 years as the grandpa with grandkids, I've got the granddaughter in. So. We're going to follow. All right, I'm going to follow up on this, and I'm going to come back live. But I've got, like I said, I'm burning minutes on some expensive lawyers who are putting together our stuff. So it's your will. Do you want me to leave the channel open and y'all have a discussion on what I've talked about, or should I come back online at 4 o'clock?
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
All right. 4?
Yeah.
4 works for everybody? Does that work for everybody?
That's 4 our time, East Coast time?
4 Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
All right. All right. 4 o'clock. I will see everyone there at 4 o'clock. Thank you for your time. I know time is precious. Like I said, I've got 5 heart attacks. I understand how precious time is, okay? I'll try not to waste more of yours than necessary, but, you know, this is a movement. This is a culmination of movements. It's inclusive of everybody. Again, we're creating something that's inclusive of everybody, okay? That's what they told us to do. Organize all 300 million. And guess what, sister? You got half of that.
Oh, I'm ready.
All right. You got the materials. I look for it. I'll see everybody back. I'll start the hangout, and you'll receive invitations.
Thank you.
FAU Chairman. Okay, you can see it at the on my Hangouts on my Google Plus page.
All right.
Thank you.